Board with Friends, episode 27, The Networks.
I mean, I'm not allowed to tell that story because Zach wants us to stay on topic.
Stay on topic.
All right, well, we got a little off topic.
Again, 40%. I'm lazy and I'm a mooch. That's what I do.
This is not that kind of podcast.
Welcome to Board with Friends, the podcast about hobby gaming and proving that gaming is way more fun than a root canal. I'm Zach Dyer, and on today's episode, I am joined by Devin Decker, who, last minute, he got on the show for me. I really appreciate it. As you might have saw on Twitter, he was giving me step-by-step instructions on his way home. How's it going, Devin?
I'm fantastic, Zach. Well, I wanted to make sure. I just came from Smokey and the Bandit because they were re-showing Smokey and the Bandit for the 40th anniversary. And then I'm like, I got to get home to record. So I did a Bandit on my own and made it a place that is about 40 miles away in 25 minutes.
That's impressive.
I think there's a statute of limitations, right? I can't be culpable for any of my actions on recording or.
Well, I hope you didn't go through any of the antics that went through Smokey and the Bandit to get home.
No. Luckily, Jackie Gleason is long dead, so he's not chasing me.
Oh. That's not too soon. It's been a while. So how you been, Devin?
I've been fantastic, Zach. First of all, you say last minute, but I always appreciate when you give me the call. It's like a bat signal. I see it, and I get right to my podcasting station. So I've been good. I've been recording a lot of things. And you know what I really appreciate is that you had me on for May because it's Brendan Fraser History Month.
Yes, it is.
My show, The Say Report. And one of the I wanted to bring a Brendan Fraser movie to your podcast, if that's okay.
I guess I'll allow it.
You know what? You know why he allows it, ladies and gentlemen? Because I ambushed him with it. One of the games we're going to be talking about tonight, the main game, the focus game, is The Networks. So the movie that I wanted to feature is Airheads, featuring Brendan Fraser, that guy named Steve from Fargo, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler. Taking over a radio station because it's the Brendan Fraser movie that I can think of that is the closest to running your own TV station.
I haven't seen Airheads in so long. I only remember brief moments when they were in the radio station, but I can't remember much about it. I probably should go back and watch that movie again.
So that's it. So that's the recommendation coming to you from the Say Report. Watch Airheads again. It's still fun and funny, and probably just because it's an incredible cast. For that film. So thanks for having me, Zach. But you invited me here to talk about board games.
Yes,
so
I did. Even though you seem to have taken over with your own plug, but that's okay. One of these days I'm going to invade your show. Oh, wait, I kind of already did.
Yes.
On your invitation, of course. But yeah, what have you been playing lately?
Talking about, you got to get this guy back.
So what have you been playing lately, Devin?
You know what I got a chance to play is, I don't know if it was Kickstarted. I don't know the whole trend of it, the history of it. But last night I got to play the Labyrinth board game.
Oh.
Which is fantastic. It is it's roll and move, so I'm sure you wouldn't be a huge fan of it. But it's roll and move, but everybody has their own speed based upon the character and the size. I played with 4 other people because there is a 5-player variant, though it is recommended for 4 players. And of course, with the people I was playing with, I wound up as Hoggle. It actually really boiled out nicely who each of us got assigned. My sister Dale was there. She played Sarah. And TJ and Mike. TJ, you played the Networks with us, if you recall. He wound up as Ludo, and Mike was Sir Didymus because he kind of looks like a fox. And Labyrinth is a fantastic game. You move around the board, and then if you land on a blank space where there's no card already, you draw a card from the deck. But as I said, we were playing the 5-player variant, so TJ's girlfriend Kate played the role of Jareth. So she would draw 2 cards and choose which of those cards she would assign to that space, hoping to screw us over and keep us from getting to the Goblin City.
Interesting. So, she was kind of the dungeon master of the game.
It's not it's dungeon master kind of, but also she's at the same mercy of what she draws. It's not like she has all the cards and she's like, I'm going to put this one here. She's still top decking, kind of. And she picks up 2 cards, but the card that she doesn't play goes to the top of the deck. So every turn, 1 card is always carried over. So it's still only 1 new card per turn, but she could hold something in her hand to be like, oh, this is the time that I want to play it because it will hurt them most.
Now, does she have a win condition?
The win condition is us losing. And the way that the game is played, very similar to the movie Labyrinth, if you haven't seen it in a while, is Sarah has 13 hours to get her brother back.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a beautiful, the miniatures are the best part of the game, but the second best part of the game is it's a cardboard recreation of that goblin clock that goes from 1 to 13. And every time you go around the board, so all 4 players move, it advances forward an hour. So you really only have 3 cycles of the table in order to complete the game.
That sounds short.
Well, it sounds short, but if you're playing with 4 players, each person has a turn to roll and move along. So that's 4 cards coming out each time if you land on one of the empty spaces where a card isn't already populated. So, even it sounds short because it's only 13 rounds, but a lot happens per round.
All right.
And it's another cool mechanic because once you get into the Goblin City, you have to beat Jareth in a test of wits, which Sarah is the only one can participate, and she rolls a 12-sided die against a 20-sided die. So she is outclassed by the Goblin King. And every time that she loses, that advances an hour on the clock as well. So the condition of it is you want to try to find the card that is the entrance to Goblin City in the deck of cards as fast as possible so that you have as many chances as possible available to best Jareth in that final confrontation.
And the final confrontation, it really just comes down to a die roll?
It comes down to a die roll, and then, because a die roll is, a lot of the game comes down to a die roll, which, as I think on it, we had fun last night because we really leaned into the skid, and we were 5 fans of Labyrinth playing the Labyrinth board game. But the worst part about the game is that everything is just based on the roll of a die, except for, and I tweeted out this picture to you, one of the cards, Jareth, or someone playing Jareth, if you're just with the 4, has to recite, "You remind me of the babe," and then whoever was unfortunate enough to land on that space needs to recite back exactly the next lines correctly, about 4 or 5 lines from that song. And if you get it correct, that's the win. That's how you succeed that card. If not, you fail.
See, I saw that picture you sent me, and I thought, whoa, maybe there's more to this game than I thought, but it sounds like it's not much to it. I do remember the Kickstarter. It was a Kickstarter, to answer you from the beginning of this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
It looked gorgeous, and it just looked amazing. It definitely looks like a collector's item for a Labyrinth fan. I didn't end up backing it because I'm not... I remember the movie fondly, but I don't really... it's not one of my, oh my god, I gotta have this, in my collection kind of things. And the gameplay didn't look all that interesting. I would definitely try it, just to say that I have, and because I'd love to see it in person. But that card that you tweeted at me, that made me actually kind of excited for the game because it did look interesting. It also made me fearful because I haven't seen this movie in so long. I would not have been able to do that task.
Right. And the only other thing that I'm aware of that exists within the game like that is Sarah has that whole speech she gives to the Goblin King at the end, the spell to beat him, that ends with, "You have no power over me." And in the rules of the game, Sarah is supposed to recite that from memory, whoever's playing the role of Sarah.
Oh my.
So, yeah, that would really add something to it if you have to memorize this 13 stanza spell throughout the game, and then to make sure that you don't botch it when it comes time. But at the same time, that's almost like a different level. That's not board game sort of challenge. That's a different kind of challenge.
It's more of a trivia fan kind of challenge.
Right. And same with the "You remind me of the babe" thing, which I gotta say that was one of the greatest moments because Kate drew that card and was like, "Oh," and she looked around the table to try to figure out which one of us would be the least fan of Labyrinth at a table full of Labyrinth fans and potentially mess it up. So she's like, "I'm not giving this card to Devin." So all of these are that card came up, we didn't know what it said, and so we're all wondering oh, what trivia are we going to have to know from it? And then when it's just the song, like, and that's an iconic song. Even if you don't know Labyrinth, David Bowie is transcendent enough in pop culture that most people probably know Dance Magic Dance.
Oh, of
Remind Me
course.
the Babe.
And
But
if they
then
don't
we
know it,
lost.
then they at least know his codpiece. So
Exactly. But we lost it because Mike was the one who ended up getting the challenge. Right at the 1 yard line, he skipped "Do What" and went right to "Remind Me of the Babe," and like that was the most into the game that all of us were at that time. So you're sort of removed from it because it is just roll and move, and everything is decided by dice. It's not as in depth as some of the literature I had seen on the game before playing it recommends, but it was still a fun time. I definitely recommend you play it. And if you are a fan of Labyrinth, then there's no question that it is a collector's item that should be in there because the board is this beautiful recreation of the Labyrinth, and like scenes are represented in 2D in this gorgeous artwork. But it's more of a piece than something I'd bring to table, if I'm being completely honest.
well, you tried it, and presumably you had fun as a Labyrinth fan. So that's really all that matters when it comes down to it. Are you having fun?
Exactly.
All right. I don't know if you heard that crash, but something just
I
dropped. up
did. Are
above
you
me.
okay over there?
I'm okay. Somebody above me is dropping things, but that's okay. Oh, I'm sure we can cut it out.
This seems like the perfect time to segue into. So, Zach, what about you? What have you been playing lately?
Well, I get to play a classic, and something that I have to send out apologies to my mother, to quote your podcast, because she had received this game as a gift, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, and asked me to teach it to her over and over and over again. And I kept saying I would do it. And yeah, sure, I'll learn how to play it. I'll teach you how to do it, how to play this game. And I just never got around to it. And one day we were hanging out. I had brought the girls over to her house, and we were all playing and everything. And the girls were doing their own thing. They were playing Wii and hanging out with their cousins. And we just brought it out and said, you know what? Let's do this. Let's play this game. And that game is Agricola, which is a huge classic, well known in the gaming circles. But I had never played it before. And she had tried to play it, but she tried to play the Family Edition rules, which were in there, and the actual rulebook doesn't explain them very well, so they had given up halfway through. But we sat down, we bit the bullet, and we just made our way through it. We ended up having to download videos on YouTube to teach us how to play a little bit. We also had to look up pictures online for the setup because we were a little confused. I have to say I was a little embarrassed, but there's a lot of pieces in this game. But once you get it all down to it, Agricola is a farming game. You're, making it, selecting actions that you can do. It's limited actions throughout the beginning of the game. And as you move through each turn, each day, more actions become available to you that you can do. And you can expand your farm. You can build fences. You can get, animals into it. You can get, things to plant. You can expand your farm buildings. You can upgrade them. You can just do anything. There are so many different actions that you can do, and everything kind of scores you points. But in the end, there's a lot of things that detract points too. It's a very punishing game if you don't have everything, or a little bit of everything. You don't want to have necessarily focus on one thing, like I'm going to have the most sheep, or I'm going to have the most corn, or whatever, or I'm going to have the best looking farm, and I'm going to have fences around everything. No, you want to have a balance of everything. And once you have that balance, then you can start scoring points and get out of the negative. It was really interesting. I definitely want to play it again. Just 2 players playing it wasn't that bad, but it was more of a learning game, so it took us a little bit longer. I think setup would be the bear on this, really, compared to the actual gameplay, because there's just so many pieces. Like I said, there's wooden pieces for everything, and there's these adorable little animeeples. It was fun.
Is that the official term, animeeple?
Yes, it actually says it on the box. This version comes with animeeples. Now, you have played Caverna, correct?
I was going to say, Agricola sounds a lot like Caverna.
So I was wondering, I want to play both now, because I liked Agricola, and I've heard Caverna is better from some people, but I've also heard it's worse. I guess it's just kind of a polarized experience, just like any other game. But I want to play Caverna because I liked Agricola, but I think I like the theme a little bit better on Caverna because it's more fantasy based, if I'm right in that.
That is correct. I having never played Agricola, not being familiar with it, I can't talk 100% about the differences between the two. But if it's just farming in Agricola, which makes sense because from agriculture. Caverna, you have a farm element, but you also have a mining element as well.
Ooh.
So you need to split your time between gathering those type of resources and harvesting and growing crops. So you're a little split there. It is very similar with the actions open up as turns go by, as each turn represents a day. And also there's an adventuring component to it, which is interesting because, like, I'll relate it to Tiny Epic Western because that's the game I know that you're familiar with. Once you put your character on that space, no one else can adventure, and adventuring is the way that you get the better loot and the better tools to make sure that your farm and mine are producing the best.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so the worker placement element, you take it first and nobody else can get it.
Right.
Which is also in Agricola. I probably didn't mention that. It is a worker placement game. But one thing I really like in Agricola, I was playing with my mother, so it was even funnier. It is a worker placement game, and you start with 2 workers, and eventually one of the actions that will populate is, expand your family. So basically, you make a baby, and then you have more workers, which is what they did way back then. You had big families so that you could run the farm. What was that, Devin?
That's the only reason people had children. Is like, we got all this farmland, we got to have someone work it.
Absolutely. But the best part was, we would get the new worker. I'd get one and I'd say, okay, well, this baby's gonna go over here and haul all this stone back to my farm so I can do stuff with it. And you just picture like this, tiny little infant pulling a cart, and obviously not gonna work, but really funny to think about. It was a good time. But the other thing is you got to feed your people, which was probably the most annoying thing about the game, because you'd have all these great plans that you were going to do stuff. I'm going to build this fence over here, and I'm going to get these animals over here, and they're going to go in there, and that's going to earn me a ton of oh crap, it's the end of the season, I got to feed my people. Shoot, I got to buy all this food, and I got to grow this stuff, and I got to do these things. Like one of the special cards that I was able to get was basically it was an oven, and I could take the wheat that I had grown and I could turn it into bread, and that gave me more food than you normally would, and I didn't have to buy any food. So I had like an engine building to get food for my people. But as I made more babies, it became harder and harder because now I got to feed them too. And it was a good brain burner. I really liked it. That's Agricola.
That's cool. And I like Caverna. I mean, it was on the table last night for the impromptu game night that I wound up being a part of. But that's a game that, like, TJ was the host, and he's like, I really want to play Caverna. But we all looked at our watches, and they're like, yeah, it's 7 o'clock. I have to work tomorrow. So, like, I don't want to be playing Caverna until 1 in the morning.
Is it really that long?
It is an in-depth game.
Wow.
Especially because, I mean, 4 of us there had already played it, but Mike had never played before. So the teaching element of it would expand it. Plus the fact that we had 5 players, that increases it. Like a fairly good litmus test when you're talking about Caverna, at least how I've experienced it and the way that I've played it, because I've played through it about 3 times, is it's about an hour for every player that you have at the table.
Wow. All right.
So it is in depth. It is and it, like, so it sounds like it's the college to Agricola's high school.
I think Agricola says half an hour per player on box, now that I think about it. And it did take us, because of the learning aspect, it took us about an hour and a half to play. Which, plus with children coming and interrupting and wanting things, because, that's what they do. Food. It was, and they also wanted to play it. And we're just like, all right, Meme and Daddy can barely handle this game. We'll play a game with you in a little bit. Like, this was definitely not a game you play with your kids. I've busted out some games that are above their pay grade, and they've done fine with it, but I was not ready to play Agricola with them. But yeah,
You
hour
were
and a
really
half.
able to play Agricola with yourself, so that
I could
makes
barely
sense.
play it with myself. I mean, we had to have tutorial videos up and all this other stuff just to figure it out. But once we got it down, it was enjoyable.
Exactly, and that's the same with Caverna. Like if you were sitting down with people, everyone at the table has played the game before. I want to imagine that hour will get cut down to about 30 to 45 minutes per player, but still, it is an in-depth and you are committing to playing Caverna. And part of that is the setup. I mean, just like Agricola, tons of tiny pieces, and once it's set up, I mean, it's a game that's worth the setup. It's not like, oh, we set up this game and then we played for 20 minutes and it's over.
I have a couple of those in my collection that annoy me. All right, what do you got next, Evan?
The next game that we played was Libertalia,
Ooh.
which is a piratey game.
Arr.
I had played it one time before, but last night really felt like Libertalia because we had 5 players, and the whole thing about Libertalia is it's deck building, and it's a deck building game, really, kinda. I don't know. That's how I would describe it. I don't know. I'm not the board game guy. You're the board game guy. But everybody has a deck of cards that has 30 cards in it, and one person in the rules, the youngest player, but you can figure out however you want, draws 9 cards from their deck of 30 and then reads out to the group what those 9 cards are. So everybody starts with the same 9 cards. And then when it comes time to like go looting and, you know, pillaging and plundering, those 9 cards are used and everybody puts one face down, and then each card has a value assigned from 1 to 30, and then they are arranged from left to right, lowest to highest. So like if you have the highest, you know, like you'll be at the end. And then the best part about Libertalia, what I really like about it, is that each day, and it's a 6-day cycle per turn, goes the daytime portion, the morning, goes from left to right. So if you're the lowest person and you have a daytime action might be like collect 2 doubloons. Those resolve in the order of left to right. And then it comes dusk time, and that's when you pillage from the ship that you have captured that day, and that goes from highest to lowest. So you need to be thinking as you're playing, you know, how is my daytime action going to be affected by my dusk action? And you can see what each ship has, and there's like various booty tiles that wind up in the ship cargo hold. So you want to make sure that you're high enough in the order to make sure that you wind up with a good booty tile and not something that's going to end up costing you money or a character in the long run.
Is it actually called booty tile?
They're called booty tiles, yes.
That's awesome.
So that's everywhere talks about the booty tiles.
Of course they do.
Discard all but one booty tile. Pay doubloons for each booty tile.
It's very thematic.
So the fun thing about that is everybody starts with those same 9 cards, but then 6 rounds happen. So everybody is left with 3 cards in their hands, and because, you know, everybody played differently based upon, you know, what they wanted to accomplish each day, when the second round starts, sorry, it's very it's distracting not having the rules in front of me. When the second round starts and a player draws 6 more cards from their remaining cards, you know that everybody has those 6 cards, but you have to remember back to the first call out what other cards may still be in play and what each person might have.
Oh, all right.
So there's like real deep memorization and strategy about that, because you're thinking about your own strategy. Like if you get the 30 card, do I want to play it during this first round, or do I want to wait until the second round when it might be all lower cards and this guarantees me that I can loot first at some point?
What happens if you tie somebody?
So that's the other cool thing. In the lower left, the upper right has the value of the card, but in the lower left, randomly assigned is a number, and that number goes from 1 to 6, and that's randomly assigned based upon whatever color you pick, whatever player you are. So say you and I both play 14, I'm red, you're yellow. The 14 red has a 3, the 14 yellow has a 2. So you would be lower than my 14.
Oh, all right. I got you.
Yeah. So it's all built in there. There's no chance of like any sort of ties that'll really skew the pot in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of thought that went into the game, and there's a lot of thought that needs to go into playing the game.
Sounds like a bit like Get Bit on steroids, basically. Did you ever play Get Bit?
I haven't played Get Bit.
Get Bit, it's a bluffing game, basically. Everybody's got a set of cards that are, 1 to 5, whatever it is. Your robot's trying to swim away from a shark, and it actually comes with little plastic robots. I think it got rethemed with pirates swimming away, but think Stick Fuzz or Shakinis, those old toys that we used to have for animation. So very articulated. You can pose them any way you want. And everybody picks a card, puts it down, and then they all reveal simultaneously. And the highest card the lowest card swims first, and ties don't move. So a similar mechanism. You're playing cards, face down. You have to reveal what cards you did, and there's rules to who gets what in what order and everything. In that game, though, if you end up being the closest one to the shark at the end of the round, you literally pop off a arm or leg, and until you're eaten, and then you're out of the game. Really fun bluffing game. But this sounds like even more involved.
Yeah, no, Libertalia is far more involved, especially because, like I said, those booty tiles are there and they're face up.
Yep.
But when you pillage that cargo hold, they go on your player mat face down. So, like, you need to remember what someone grabbed and to see if, like, is it worth trying to play this skill against them, or will it benefit them? Do they have one of the 3 items that they need, that if they have that come the end of the round, they're going to get bonus points? So it's a lot of memorization going into it, and you just have a lot of balls in the air, and it's a lot of fun to play, but it is definitely a super involved game that every time I've played, I've had nothing but fun with.
I would love to try it. We'll have to take that to PAX Unplugged. Which,
yes, PAX
quick
Unplugged.
announcement, we're going to that. Woo!
We're going to be there.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're playing Libertalia, and more than likely, since there will be at least 6 of us there, Caverna will come out at some point.
I'm down. Any game. I got a whole list that I want to bring with me as well.
Excellent.
Speaking of which, one of them is coming up next. I talked about this briefly on a previous episode, but I got to play it again because Vanessa got it for me for my birthday. Which the game that is rapidly becoming my new favorite game. It might dethrone Shadows over Camelot. That is Orleans from Tasty Minstrel Games. This game is a bag building game. You basically, what you do is you start off with a few different workers of varying types. Like there's a merchant and a farmer and a few other different characters. It doesn't really matter. They just basically you throw them all into your bag, and then you draw them out based on how many you can draw at that turn. It might be 4 or 5 or whatever. And you place these workers on your board, and you're basically, different actions that you can do require certain types of workers. So if you need 3 certain types of workers, if you need the merchant and you need the monk and somebody else, you place those workers there, and then you get to do that action. And you're working your way with all sorts of different things to either, travel around the countryside. You're trying to build forts in different areas. You're trying to, move up different experience tracks, like for scholars, for knights, for all this other things. And that gets you more workers that you get to throw into the bag. So now you have more people that you can work with. And you can level up so that you can draw more people out of the bag, so you have more to work with on your turn. And it's just a crazy brain burner of a game. It's not a lot of player interaction in it because you can't really block anybody, but you could accidentally set somebody else up for a better move. But it was just a lot of fun, and every time I play this game, I am just gushing over it. I want to play it again. It's a little bit longer of a game than we normally play, but I'm okay with that because I have a lot of fun thinking about it. The artwork is gorgeous, the game is fun, and I just love it. I want to play it, and that is definitely one that I want to bring with me to PAX Unplugged, and I want to introduce you to it because I think you would really enjoy it.
Well, I mean, having heard you describe it, it sounds a lot like Puerto Rico, but with like cranked up to 11.
Yes.
Because Puerto Rico is a game that I absolutely love playing, and it's one that comes to table a lot when I'm with other groups besides you. No offense.
That's okay.
But it sounds like it's even more in depth and more involved. And if I have one complaint about Puerto Rico, it's that it's too like focused in its scope. So by bringing it out, yeah, I definitely want to play that game. That's a game that I want to play. So
Puerto Rico is one of those classics that, again, I have to try. I have not gotten it. It's an older game, and I've just never gotten to play it. I would love to try that one.
Everything we've talked about tonight has led to these beautiful double-header gaming sessions that we can set up
Yes.
for the future.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. It's going to be time-consuming if we do
That too.
a
These are all
Triple
long
and
games that we've
Taverna
chosen
in one
here.
day.
That's okay. But like I said, I've talked about Orleans before, and I will probably talk about it again because I really enjoy it. There's an expansion coming out that actually adds a cooperative element to it, which I'm intrigued by, but I want to explore this base game more before I get into it. It's another one that, because of the length of time it takes to play, we haven't gotten it out as often as I would like. So far, we've only busted out my copy once. We almost brought it out the other night, but again, kind of similar situation to you with Caverna. It was just like, it's kind of a long game. Let's play something else that's a little shorter, which was probably a smart move, except we ended up playing Tiny Epic Western and trying to teach it to some new people, and it took even longer than it normally should, so...
I don't know the name of Tiny Epic Western's makers. I couldn't tell you the name of that maker. I love the game.
It's Gamelin Games.
Gamelin, right? It's Gamelin Games, right?
Yes.
Gamelin Games. Freaking that name. The name of that game, Tiny Epic Westerns, that right there, that is a misdirect. That is a miscommunication. It is epic. It is totally epic, and it is definitely a Western. But tiny is the wrong adjective.
Oh, no, it takes up a pretty big table space, but the tiny is referring to the box size.
Oh, okay. Because
So they're good.
That's it. But I'm just saying, every time we take out Tiny Epic Westerns, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is good. This is like a good quick game to get us like excited. This is a good pre-show game before we get to the main event. And then Tiny Epic Western ends up taking like 90 to 120 minutes. And they're the best 90 to 120 minutes I've ever had. Like the last game that we played was truly epic.
Yes, it was.
Like that's going to go down in history for a long time when it comes to board games and Devin Decker. But it is a deceptive title that tricks me every time. So good on you, Gamelin Games. Good on you. The deceptive trickery. You're like Loki in board game form. That's what you are.
And they're not done yet. All right, what do you got next?
So the final game that I've been playing is Lords of Waterdeep.
Ooh.
Which is a Dungeons and Dragons themed game, but that doesn't really mean anything, to be completely honest with you. Like some of the monsters and stuff are borrowed from it, but I was never really big into D&D, and not knowing like about that whole realm and world did not detract from my enjoyment of Lords of Waterdeep.
It did not?
No, not at all. In fact, it's worker placement, which I'm rapidly finding out is my favorite type of game because there's a lot of strategy that goes on. And, someone else is at the table, you can be like, this is going to be my next move. And like that, someone puts their meeple down before you and you're like, well, now I need to figure out what I'm doing next, right? Like you need to have a plan A, B, C, D, and E if you're playing Lords of Waterdeep, because you need to make sure that you know what's going to happen. And each of those plans has subsections too, because like Plan B subsection 1, I'll have to go here, but then if someone goes there, like that game is so in depth. But what I really like about it is it's limited to 8 rounds. It's similar to Caverna or Agricola, but it moves a lot faster because there's just a lot less setup. But in the 5th round, you get a 3rd player on your team. You don't need to expand your family, but you get, not a 3rd player. We played with 3 people, so you have 2 meeples in your team. But that's how it goes up. It's always however many players you are, -1 is how many you start with at your base camp. So then once you get that last person, the way that you've been playing the game all along has accounted for however many meeples you have to place, and now you have this last one. So like it disrupts your strategy and the way that you're playing the game, and I love it. And I mean, there are some mechanics in it that are a little bit broken, but I've played through it in 2 separate occasions. On one of them, we had one of the expansions in there. I don't own the game. I couldn't tell you the name of the expansion. It's not the one that involves the Beyonders from Dungeons and Dragons. It's another one.
There's Scoundrels of Skullport or something.
Yeah, it's Scoundrels of Skullport.
Yeah.
That is correct.
I've never even played the game, but I know that expansion's name.
Yeah.
I think when we had Boov on over the summer, he was telling us about this game too, and I think he had mentioned it. That might be why I know it. But right. It does sound it's a worker placement game that I've wanted to. I would never say no to it. Its theme was something that just didn't really interest me, but at the same time, like you said, it doesn't really matter. Dungeons and Dragons is just, it just takes the story of Dungeons and Dragons and makes a really cool board game out of it. So yeah, I would definitely try it.
That's it. I mean, like, if you don't get caught up in themes is what I've learned. I mean, my sister hates playing Pandemic because she doesn't like the whole fact that the world is being infected by viruses and that whole thing. So I shaped it into a different, like, packaging for her, where it's like, well, instead of viruses, how about it's creatures that are coming over to our world and you're trying to send them back home, and it fixed it for her because people weren't dying. And then of course Pandemic Cthulhu came out, which is similar to that, but people are still dying.
It is funny how that works though. Like, themes can turn you off. That might be a topic in the future, I guess. Like, Vanessa won't play Flashpoint Fire Rescue because the theme to her is just, it's too real. It's too intense. But she loves Pandemic. Like, that one doesn't, bother her at all. So it really just, different themes will mess with different people's heads, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. And like I said, I'm sure that there are Dungeons and Dragon fans, and I know that like 3 of the 5 people I played with the second time were big into Dungeons and Dragons, so they understood the lore of it and everything like that. And that's cool. Like, it allows them to have that one step further of immersion in the game. But like, as far as I know, not knowing it, there are 5 different types of quests, and there are 4 different colors of workers that I can collect that are required to complete those quests. I mean, if you think of them as warriors and priests and clerics and rogues, good on you. Like, you get to have that. But as far as I know, I need 3 orange and a black in order to complete this quest. And it's still enjoyable, and it's a game that I think that you would like. I think you would really enjoy it. Like, I just talked about Tiny Epic Westerns and how it's like that's always a bigger game than I always think it's going to be. Very similar to the worker placement, but if you don't have that ability to duel, so you can only put a worker and then that's gone for the rest of the round, like, it adds a whole other level of strategy, especially since there's always a finite number of spaces. So once you're playing with 5-6 people, sometimes you're going to wind up with, holding the bag and not having a good place to place one of your characters.
Not a good thing to do in a worker placement game.
No, that's why I didn't realize how important the first player space was when we first played with only 3 people. But then when it was 5 of us at the table, yeah, it's important that I go first because I might get stuck with discard your cards as the last place to put one of my meeples.
Well, I will definitely try it. That's another one that's on my long list of games to eventually try. Maybe we can add it to the con game list and bring it with us.
Oh, that's definitely, like, all the games that I talked about today, maybe not Labyrinth because it is more that collectible sort of thing, so you wouldn't want to travel with it, but definitely Libertalia and Lords of Waterdeep, they're going to be on the bus. So
nice.
Look forward to those in November.
I can't wait. Well, keeping with the theme of really heavy games that we've been talking about here, next up for me is Frog Flip. This is from Green Couch Games. It's not a heavy game at all. I backed this. This was part of a charity event that they had on Kickstarter. I think it only went for a week. And Jason Kotarski, he's the owner of Green Couch Games. He and his daughter actually designed this game together. and it's super cool. It's basically a small deck of cards and a poker chip. That's what it is. You lay out between, it's for two people to play. You lay 4 cards between you, and they'll have lily pads on them. And then you have a deck of cards, which is the scorecards, and you shuffle them up. And on those scorecards are also lily pads, but also flies, any numbered 1 through 4. There'll be 1 fly, 2 fly, 3 fly, or 4 flies on them. And on the opposite side of the card is the exact same image, but the lily pad has a flower on it. And basically what you do is, whoever starts, they look at the score deck, whatever card is on top. If it's a 3, you count 1, 2, 3 lily pads away from you, and you take the little poker chip that has a cute picture of a frog on it, and you flick it up into the air and try to get it to land on the lily pad that is designated by the scorecard. And that's it. If it hits the card, you score that card. You take it and you move on to the next card. If it hits it and lands on it and stays there, you take the card and you flip it over and you get the side that has the flower on it. Because at the end of the game, you go back and forth until all the scorecards are gone, and then you add up all the flies that you've gotten. And if you tie, you add up all the flowers, and flowers will break the ties. This is a super simple game. But we have a blast with it. I've played it with my 3-year-old. Oh, no, wait, sorry, now she's 4. I play it with my 4-year-old. I play it with my 6-year-old. We went to a game night at her school. It was an educational game night, so not super fun games, for really, but, it was interesting. And before they busted out their educational games, I had this in my pocket, and we took it out, and I had a crowd of kids around us, and I was teaching them all how to play it, and they had like their own little tournament going. Having a blast with this game. It was really funny. One of the dads even said, "I've never heard of this game before." And I said, "Oh, it's called Frog Flip. It's from Green Couch Games." He's like, "Where can you buy it?" I said, "I have no idea." Probably from Green Couch's website, because you're not going to find this in stores. Most people, they think of these games as stuff you could just go to Walmart and pick up, and they think of Monopoly, they think of Categories, they think of Risk, and games like that. So it's really fun to show them, like, hey, this is a really neat designer board game that you probably have never heard of, but it's super fun, and it wasn't that expensive either. Even the lady who was running the event, she walked over and she saw it, and she's like, "Oh my god, this looks really cool, what is it?" And we explained the game to her. But really what was important was all these kids were coming over and playing this game and having a blast. And my oldest daughter, I was so proud of her. She wanted to teach people. She was getting people involved. She was running from table to table like, "Come on, you want to learn how to play Frog Flip?" And she was dragging kids over and they were taking a look at it. It was really cool. But the game itself, super simple. It just comes in a little baggie. You can fit it in your pocket and take it out with you. If you can get a copy of this thing, really all you need is a poker chip and some paper, and you can make a copy. But if you could support Green Couch Games and get this game, I really recommend it, especially if you have kids.
I have to tell you, that sounds like the game that is totally directed at kids and fun for kids, and kids love a great time with it. But if adults play it, friendships are on the line.
Oh, yes. I can see that happening. And not everybody is very good at dexterity games, so
I just have to say it. I have to say that, like, totally friendships would be like, our friendship ended that day that we played Frog Flip. I haven't seen him in a week.
We had a little family tournament one night, and I think I was tweeting about it too. And Lily and Evelyn insisted that Vanessa play. She was just like, no, you guys are having fun, it's okay, I gotta do this other stuff. And they're like, come on. And I said, it's really fast. So we taught her how to play it, and she was just like, I'm really bad at these games. And she's flicking it wasn't hitting the cards, and I kind of felt bad, but at the same time everybody was laughing and having fun. Everybody was. And we even created a third role, because usually it was the 3 of us playing. We had one person be the referee to say whether or not it lands, it hit the card or not. And my 4-year-old took this greatly to heart, and also she realized that what she says goes. So whether it hit or not, she would mess with you, because that's just the kind of fun that she likes to have. But it's a really good game. I definitely recommend it, as just like the entire Green Couch line. I love their stuff. I don't think I've found one that I dislike. There's a few that I like better than others, but they got some really good stuff going on, and that's a winner.
Yeah, no, it sounds like fun. It's something that I think would be fun. It reminds me of games I used to play when I was a kid too. But like a lot of those games that you played as a kid that like were just in fun, yeah, you play them as an adult. It's a scary time. But yeah, no, I like it. I enjoy it, and you know what? I like that it's not a super heady game after our parade of games that like take heart and soul and mind and body in order to win.
No. It's definitely a lighthearted game, but it's a good one. All right, so moving on to some news. Last time I had you on, Devin, we talked about a Kickstarter for Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea from Gamelin Games, the guys who made Tiny Epic Western and Tiny Epic Galaxies and all the other Tiny Epics. They are back up on Kickstarter. As of this recording, they're about halfway through it, and everything's looking great. It's got 2 weeks left. I think it ends on June 7th, and they've already definitely made they backed the project, and they've moved on to a whole bunch of stretch goals and everything. They streamlined the whole thing. They just, instead of adding so many different tiers of, backer levels and stuff like that, they just knocked it down to basically 2. And you can add on if you want your miniatures pre-painted or not. But I really like what they did. I think it was a smart move of them to take it down and put it back up when they were ready. And they're insisting that it's not going to mess with production time, that the game's still going to come out on time. I'm still looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be awesome. I even say epic. And it's going to take up a ton of space. So hopefully I finish this bloody basement and I'll have some room to play it.
Yeah, no, it's one that every time you bring it up, I get excited. I'm because it's Kickstarter and because I've been burned before on Kickstarter kind of stuff. Never with board games, right? Like they've always seemed to come out. I mean, you're gonna have more experience with that than me, but every time that you've Kickstarted the board game, we end up playing that board game eventually. This is one that I am very, very excited about. But until you bring it over or I'm over at your place to play this game, it is still that cautious optimism. So hearing that they have already reached their goal and that they've got these stretch goals, that makes me very excited. And now I really just am looking forward to the day that we get to play as Heroes of Land, Sea, and Air.
Well, they reached their goals last time they were up on Kickstarter. They did. But they took it down simply because they were realizing that there was a lot of demands from the fans. Like they wanted things, certain ways. They wanted no pre-painted miniatures, and then they also wanted standees, and they wanted, a little bit more, or maybe less options as far as like backer levels and stuff like that. And Gamelin Games basically just took it down and said, we're going to streamline this whole process. They, rethought the way it was going to work. They put it up with new backer levels. They even, they reached out to the fans and said, look, we even found a new quote from another manufacturer that was able to bring things in cheaper. So they were able to lower prices a little bit too, which was cool. And it looks gorgeous. I can't, every single faction's got unique sculpts. They got these really cool constructs that you can put the miniatures into. So, if they're getting on a boat, you're literally putting your miniatures on a boat and sending them across the water to the other islands. It just looks cool. And I've watched some of the gameplay videos. I'm really excited for this one.
Good. And your excitement gets me even more excited than the prospect of playing another Gamelin game. Because like I said, it's deceptive. And I'm glad that they're finally being like, no, this one's going to take some time. You're going to need 3 empty rooms to play this game. 1 representing land, 1 representing sea, 1 representing air.
I don't think it's that bad.
No. I'm just saying, like, I like that. I've enjoyed their tiny stuff, so I'm glad to see what a full-size board game from them will be like. And I am excited just because the product that they have already delivered is some of the greatest board gaming that I have done as an adult.
Nice.
So
the final bit of news I have, after a year of waiting, because it has been almost exactly a year since I pre-ordered this game, Gale Force 9 has announced that the Doctor Who board game is on its way. It's going to be in stores, probably next month. I've pre-ordered it, so I'm just going to get it, and we are definitely going to review this game. I already have it slated to, Vanessa's going to be on the show again for it, and I have a very special guest coming on to help review this game.
You say very special guest in Doctor Who. I want it to be one of the doctors, Zach.
Okay, so a very special guest to me. How about that?
Better. Like,
a little
that's
bit
called
better.
Managing expectations.
But she does listen to the podcast, so she'll know who she is. The news about the game, though, they made some changes, and I don't know if I'm okay with it or not. And really, at this point, it doesn't matter. I guess my opinion. I'm still gonna get it, and I'm still gonna play it. But the original version of the game was going to come out with 6 Doctors. I think it was the first Doctor, the 4th, 5th, 10th, 11th, and that might not be 6. I don't know. But basically, it was going to come out with 6 Doctors. And they've reduced it down to 4. And then 2 of the Doctors who were taken out, the 5th and the 10th, I believe, they are going to be released as a expansion pack, with the game or a little bit after the game comes out. And this makes me kind of upset because it feels like a cash grab, but also it reduced the price of the base game, so maybe it's not. I don't know how I feel about it. I was excited because the 5th and the 10th Doctors are probably my favorites next to the 8th. So I was really kind of mad that they took them out, but also I guess from a marketing standpoint, those are very popular Doctors. So to get people to buy the expansions, it makes sense to take them out and put them in as an expansion. Maybe.
Now,
I don't know.
I am not nowhere near the level of Doctor Who fan that you are. Let's like preface with that. But one would argue that the 10th Doctor is the most popular Doctor, especially with modern fans of Doctor Who.
He is definitely up there, but I think the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, kind of outstrips him because he's the one who really hit the stride of the show. Like, when the show maximum popularity, especially in the United States, it was probably Matt Smith. And a lot of people, especially younger viewers, associate him as their Doctor. And a lot of people jumped ship from the show when Peter Capaldi took over, which I think is a shame because I really like Peter Capaldi too. I don't think there's a Doctor I don't like, honestly, but it just, there's some that I like more than others. It just bugs me a little bit that they would downsize the game, but at the same time, there was going to be expansions anyway, and if it did reduce it, it doesn't really matter. But one of the chief mechanics of this game, this is really cool. If your character dies, if your Doctor dies, he regenerates to the next Doctor in line. It's an actual mechanic of the game. So if you're playing as the 2nd Doctor and you die, you move on to the 3rd Doctor and you just take him. Unless the 3rd Doctor's already been playing, and then you move on to the next Doctor that is available. And if you're the 12th Doctor, you go all the way around the horn again and you become Doctor number 1, William Hartnell. Just a really cool mechanic. And now I want all of the Doctors because I want to be able to do that. And it's just a little frustrating.
That's the coolest thing that I've heard about this game.
Yes.
That's excellent. And also, you 100% described me when you say that, like, Matt Smith. Like, I always thought that I was in, like, the minority by feeling like Matt Smith is my Doctor. And then I did jump ship when Capaldi came on. But I love Peter Capaldi. It's just we lost BBC America at my house.
Oh, no.
So I didn't have it anymore.
You guys, the TV fiends, and you lose BBC America?
We lost BBC America the day, like, the finale of Matt Smith's run.
Ugh.
Like, I did not know that they had changed how our package was. So we had people over to watch that episode, and then you don't have BBC America anymore.
No.
And so I'm like, oh no. So we found a way to watch it, like, crisis averted. But then it was like, if they're going to change it, and then, like, looking at the package in order to get it back, it's just like, the cost was too much. So I bailed with Capaldi. But, like, I love Peter Capaldi in Paddington. So, like, why would I not love him as the Doctor? But I've just been waiting for a time when I can sit down and go through his seasons.
Yeah.
But
his seasons, I guess we're getting off topic, but it's Doctor Who.
Yeah.
His seasons are a little hit or miss as far as episodes with me, but he's good. Like, he is so good. I love him as the Doctor. I don't like the stories and the things that they're going. Plus, I really don't like Clara as a companion. But this season that we're in right now has been fantastic the whole time. So I've been very happy with that. And it's a pity because it is his last season. Spoilers. He's
Spoiler?
you know, so,
I think everybody knew that.
I think everybody knew that. If you hadn't heard that spoiler, you probably don't have an
You're
internet
probably not
connection.
a Doctor Who fan.
Yeah, or you're not a Doctor Who fan. Yeah. Anyway, that's all the news I had on the Doctor Who board game. We are definitely reviewing it. I don't know when it's going to be. Probably July's episode. We got a lot of cool stuff planned for the next few months.
Exciting.
But the Doctor Who episode keeps getting pushed back until it gets released and we have time to actually play it, obviously. But speaking of reviews, let's move into the rules breakdown of our review game today, The Networks. The Networks is an economic strategy game for 1 to 5 players, designed by Gil Hova and published by Formal Ferret Games. In The Networks, you are managing and growing your own TV station. In order to thrive, you must land the best shows with the best stars and, of course, the best advertisements. The game is played over 5 seasons, and the player with the most viewers after 5 seasons is the winner. At the start of the game, turn order is randomly decided and money is given out based on that turn order. The first player has the advantage of getting first pick of anything they want, but has the least amount of money. On your turn, you can perform one of several actions. You can develop a show, you can hire an actor, you can land an advertisement, and you can move actors or ads from your green room to an existing show. Players go back and forth performing actions until one player decides they are done developing and end their season. They can then claim a reward of either money or viewers. Once all players have declared that they have no more actions to take, the season ends and the round is scored. Scores are determined by what season your shows are in, any bonuses provided by stars or ads, and any additional viewers you might get from a rerun of a retired show. Once scoring is complete, the player with the lowest amount of viewers is first in turn order for the next round. Starting with the second season, the network cards are brought out. These cards can be taken as an action, and they spice up the game by adding more bonuses or some rule-breaking options. They could give you money, extra viewers, or let you perform bonus actions. After the 5th season, one final scoring round occurs, and the player with the most viewers wins. Let's get back to the friends and find out what we thought of The Networks. All right, and we're back talking about The Networks. It was just the coolest theme ever. I mean, that's what drew me to it, honestly. I know we say, like, you know, theme isn't everything, and you shouldn't be turned off by theme, but this one, it was all about the theme. Just, you get to own your own TV network and try to build it up. It was basically UHF the game. Honestly, that's what I thought of when I first saw this game on, I think it was originally a Kickstarter, but I never backed it or anything like that. Did you get that vibe from it, Devin?
I did, especially when you described it to me. I felt very UHF the game, especially because you start with these like crappy public access type shows, and then as you develop better shows, like it felt like I wish I could remember the character's name that Weird Al played. Like I had it in my head and then it just flew away.
I haven't seen UHF in so long. I don't remember the character's name, but yeah, start off with these garbage television shows.
Like him being like, "Oh, I have this TV station. Why wouldn't we try to do better programming?"
Yeah, you basically, I mean, this game, you start off with garbage shows and you're trying to move on and get better shows and better programming for it. And the neat thing is it's got such a light, whimsical theme, but it really is a crunchy, you know, brain burner trying to figure out like when is the best time to replace a show, when is the best time to, you know, retire an actor or whatever. What should I get as an advertisement? You know, because some of those advertisements, you know, they have like little twists to them where it's like, okay, you're gonna get 3 million a view with you know, if you place it with sports, but if you place it with a sci-fi show, you got to turn it around and, you know, you don't get anything really. You get 1 million or something like that. Just a neat concept, the way it all works. And then I also like that you have reruns that you can put the shows into and get more money off them and viewers.
Exactly. Like I liked the networks. Don't get me wrong. It was a game that I enjoyed playing. It is a game that I look forward to playing again. That being said, because it was originally pitched to me as like a UHF the board game, and even like reading on it on my own, like that's sort of what the conclusion I came to. The fact that the shows themselves really are just it doesn't boil down to what the show is, it boils down to what the genre is.
Yes.
And that was sort of like less fun for me, especially because when you start the game, you're assigned the same stuff no matter what, right? Like depending on whatever color you're assigned, you're always going to start with the 3 same crap public broadcasting shows and the same actor in your green room to work with, right? So that's an interesting...
different actors, but yes, essentially they all boil down to exactly the same stats. Yes.
No, isn't that assigned? I thought that the first actor was assigned.
Yeah, the actor, the shows that you should get, they all are assigned to you. Like you get a starter deck for each station, and
yeah,
they're different names to the shows. But you're right, they're all the same stats. They don't have any viewers really, and they don't get you anything. So they don't do anything.
That's what I'm saying. But even then, like even with everyone having their own starter deck and stuff like that, like I had fun with it because the shows that I had, those 3 shows, they were garbage shows. But I'm still going to arrange them in this specific order because if I really were a TV network executive, this would probably ensure the most eyeballs on my network.
Yeah.
And then once the game started, any sort of that type of creativity, I felt went out the window, and that's what I was sort of looking forward to.
Well, some of it was still there. Maybe not, but some shows had ideal time slots. Like you wanted to put it at 8 p.m. Versus 9 p.m. because the show was designed to get viewers at that time slot. So if you didn't put it in that time slot, you still got viewers from it, just not as many. But it was fairly easy usually to get things in their ideal time slots. I think only one time did I not get a show that was supposed to go in the correct time slot, like in its ideal time slot. And that is the objective of the game, is to get viewers. So, it's more of a puzzly game where you're trying to get things at the right time and retire shows at the right time. So you're right. I sold it to you as UHF the game thematically, but the actual gameplay doesn't really evoke that.
Right, and that's fine. And that's expectation versus reality, so I can't be 100% upset about that. But I thought that there'd be like more development to the shows, like the fact that the shows themselves are one of the cards that you pick up during each round, as opposed to picking up an actor and like picking up a genre and then being like, I'm creating this show. And I don't know, like I thought there'd be more creativity to the game than is actually there, which on some ends is also pretty good, because there are times when you want to play a game and you wouldn't want to be creative. You just want to, stretch your strategy muscles. Mm. And that game definitely stretches your strategy muscles. Like you said, there are a lot of, spinning plates in the air. Like this show, once it's on for 3 seasons, it really stops bringing in any viewers. So do I want to get to the 3 seasons, or do I want to cut and run with the high numbers I'm getting in the first 2 seasons? Like, I fully understand why TV is as hard as it is to do.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, it did give me a deeper appreciation for being a TV network executive.
It basically made me think of like, TV nowadays.
Yes.
Like how many shows overstay their welcome. And I stopped watching, like, I've long since stopped watching shows like Big Bang Theory. When Scrubs was on, it overstayed its welcome by at least 3 seasons. Like, they stopped being entertaining, so you stop watching them. So thematically, I thought that actually made a lot of sense. And other shows, it was really cool because, they would start slow, but then they would peak in the middle. So a couple of seasons in, all of a sudden, they're spiking. You're getting a ton of viewers from them on, like their 2nd or 3rd season instead of right from the beginning, which was really neat. So is it worth it to take it right now when you only get a couple viewers, because you know it's going to pay off later, especially if you compare it with the right star, because that adds to viewers, and if you compare it with the right advertisement, that can add to viewers and revenue, which is great. It was a neat strategy to it.
Yeah, it is a neat strategy, and that's the thing. Like, I'm just upset that, like, I thought I'd be like, I'm developing this show, and that wasn't there. But there is still a lot of strategy to the game and making sure that you're making the right choices. And honestly, if I'm upset with the networks for any reasons, it's the fact that I did win. I won the game. I had the most viewers at the end.
Didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, I did. I did. I'm sorry. I have proof. I took photos. But I won with a network that, like, I personally would despise. But, like, because my 8 o'clock show was the network equivalent of Glee. My 9 o'clock show was the network's equivalent of Orange is the New Black. And my 10 o'clock show was the game's equivalent of Breaking Bad. And, like, they're all, like, funny little puns and stuff, and that's a lot of fun. But then I'm just like, I don't really like any of these shows, but everybody else does. So, like, of course I'll keep them on my network because I need the viewers. That's what drives everything. But personally, I am not proud of my product. And that's really the one where I sympathize with these TV executives, because I don't know if CBS wants to do 2 more seasons of The Big Bang Theory, or if they're just like, it's making money hand over fist. How can we say no to it?
I mean, I, too, ended up with a network that was kind of a mishmash. I was trying to aim for, like, a sci-fi kind of network, because you do get bonuses for having shows that thematically match each other. So if you have a bunch of sci-fi shows, or you have a bunch of sports shows or whatever, there's a bonus in it, for doing that. But I went for sci-fi shows, but in the end, it's like, also I'm trying to fit shows in the correct time slots, so I ended up getting some sports shows, and I got some other stuff too. So my network was more of a menagerie of, a whole bunch of stuff. And I was really upset because I did not get Dr. What. I really wanted that card.
You gotta let it go, man.
I know, but...
Like, it's Dr. What, it's not Doctor Who.
When TJ reached over and took that, I said, really? You're going to take Dr. What? Like, you're going to take that one. But then it actually worked out in my favor, because Dr. What had a time slot that I didn't want to replace, so...
Yeah, no, like, there are those decisions, and, like, you have to divorce yourself from liking the real world version of the show and get past any issues you might have with the real world version of the show, because it's not about enjoying what's on your network. It's about what's going to get you the most fat ducats.
It really is, yeah. But that being said, what did you think about that? Those parodies and stuff like that. Did they go too far with it, or did they not go far enough?
Some of them... Every one of them felt like the first pass joke. Like, all right, so we need something that's like Glee. How about Flea? Perfect. Orange is the New Black. Paisley is the new Bert Umber. That's great. Lunch? Breaking Bad. Broken Worse. All right, right? I got a family I got to get home to.
Yeah.
Like, so...
A lot of dad jokes in there.
A lot of dad jokes in there. And again, it didn't really pull away from it, because, like I said with Lords of Waterdeep, like it's what I set up long ago. The shows themselves didn't really mean anything to me, which is a problem, because the theme of this game is really what attracted me to it. But at the end of the day, I didn't care that the show was called Flea. I wasn't going to let that affect it. What I cared about is that if I put it on at 8 p.m., I was getting 13 viewers in my first season.
Yeah.
Like, so the theme didn't really come in. Like, it was just numbers. Like, that was like extra trapping. And again, I think that's the thing. I'm like, it's this extra trapping, and it's this extra trapping that the creator of this game is trying to have fun with. Like, they're trying to make it fun for you so that you're more involved and you care about your stuff. But at the end of the day, I really only cared about my numbers. And
I still found it fun. Like, it was fun to pick up the show and read them.
I crunching numbers and making sure that I was getting recruiting the best stars to my particular studio and picking up the advertisements that would end up making me the most money at the end of the day was fun, because it was a lot of like number crunching and strategy and making sure that I got something before you got something. And then like the way that the turn order goes is brilliant. Like at any time you can determine, I'm done, my season is going to stand as it is. And then when you do that, you get rewards for doing that as well. And then based upon that, I mean, it affects the next season and who goes first and who goes second. So like, that's a whole other level of strategy that it's another layer. It's another level that's fun. You're not just focusing on your lineup, you're focusing on next season's lineup.
Yeah, I definitely had times where I had to, like, I was out of money. Like, I couldn't buy anything. And I said, okay, well, I can take that advertisement and get a little bit of money, or I can duck out early and I can get a lot of money, but also they're going to get to have their pick of everything else that's on the board. And that was an interesting, choice to have to make. I usually got an idea of, okay, 2 or 3 turns out when I was going to be ending, but sometimes I had to cut it short because I, miscalculated how much money I had to buy a star or whatever, or I didn't realize like something was going to cost me more money than it would. So I had less money. It all came down to that money, and there just wasn't enough of it, at any given time, which I guess is the life of a TV producer probably.
That's the thing, is that like it really did shine a light on how just soulless it is, because you want to have this network that you're proud of, but at the end of the day it's like, no, I don't give a damn. I don't, like, if people are going to watch this, I will put it on. And a lot of the shows that like TJ specifically, like, let's spotlight on TJ. Had a lot of reality shows on his network.
Yes, he did.
And that is why he had a good amount of money for it, because reality shows had almost no cost to upkeep in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And like, let's think about the TV environment that we're currently in. It's a lot of reality TV shows because they generate viewers, they generate money, and they cost almost nothing. And TJ, he's the guy, if he got a time machine, his first stop is not to kill Hitler. It's to avert the writer's strike in 2007.
Oh,
so,
yes.
like,
He made that abundantly clear.
He made that abundantly clear, as he kept having to pick reality TV shows and have a network that was basically True TV or Bravo. So, like, and then you, like, wanted to make a science fiction network, but, like, science fiction just wasn't profitable. Or, like, people aren't going to watch when you have the time slot available. Like, it really just shined this spotlight for me on just how soulless and unfun working in television, at least on the executive level, must be. Sure, you're driving home in Lamborghini hot tubs, but are you really? Is it really a fulfilling job?
I don't know. I mean, it was a fulfilling game. I was enjoying it.
Like again, I look forward to playing it again, and I hope that, like, I can have more fun with the trappings of it and the shows that are actually there, playing that second time, and I don't just focus on winning and the numbers. But like, when you're playing with people and it's the first time playing, I don't know about you, but I always want to win the first game, because I'll always have that bragging right if the first time we played a game I was the winner. I don't bring it up often, but it's something I like to have.
I get it.
So I play more competitive on a first game than I do any subsequent game. So like, I was focused specifically on having the most profitable network, which is the subject of the game and the whole goal of the game. But I was like, the fun of this is done. It is just about viewers.
Mm-hmm.
I was a monster. I became a monster when I played the networks.
I think one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is the network cards. They don't come out until the second season, but I think those are the cards that really add some spice to the game, so to speak, because those gave you some options that, were very different. You got a very linear approach to this. Like, okay, I need to get this advertisement. Okay, I need to get this show. All right, I'm going to need this actress or actor to put in my green room so that I can, get this show so that it can run, and I'll have that advertisement so I can attach to it. And it's the same going through the motions. But when the network cards come out, they did all sorts of rule breaking kinds of things, which was a little bit more fun. Some had instantaneous effects that gave you money or viewers. Some had a long-term effect so that you could score bigger points, later on in the game. And it was interesting. Like I kept wanting to take those, but I didn't. And TJ kept getting them all, and so did you.
Well, the whole point about that is, again, like I was saying before, the game like this, it reminded me of Lords of Waterdeep. Again, probably just because it's like the game that I've played the most of lately, where like you have to have a plan, but because there are other people who are coming in, you need to always have a backup plan. So very rarely was my plan to focus on those network cards, because strategy-wise, those are a gambit. They're a wild card. Where, like, if I stick with my strategy of getting shows that fit into the time slots that I need and collecting actors that will provide me, a thematic and a genre to my network, like, even though this network card is going to give me $5 million and allow me to, like, rearrange all my actors or make some of my actors don't, go away when my shows are canceled, in the long run, that's like a one-time goal. But if I have those actors, they will be more beneficial to me. So, like, you didn't get to touch them a lot, but like, I don't mean to. I'll be honest with you. A lot of the times, I took network cards just to keep them from falling into your hands.
That's rude. One of the ones I did get though, I know. One of the ones I did get though that worked in my favor was the spin-off card. I picked it up and it basically let me retire a show, but keep the actors attached to it and start another show with them. So instead of having to buy another actor and spend money, I already had one in my green room, which was pretty cool. And it kept with the theme. Like, okay, this actor or actress, whoever it was, they created a spin-off show, which absolutely happens in television all the time. And I dug that. Like, I liked little cards that kind of broke the game and changed it up a little bit. But if you were taking all the cards from me, that explains a lot.
Yeah. I mean, also, to be honest, as the one-time winner and, clear strategy maven of the networks, at least with Board with Friends, the big question is, why weren't you guys getting actors when you could afford actors?
I don't know. I was too engrossed in getting cool stuff like the themes, of the shows, and I was focused on that. I was focused on reading the cards and not paying attention to the strategy of the game, and that's my fault.
That's cool. That's fun. Like that's but like as the bearded hippie who's been down this stream before, recommendation to people who are playing it: if you can afford an actor before you check out for the season, always purchase an actor, because actors are the only thing that add up to viewers after the game is done. So if you have actors just sitting in your green room, somehow they still equal viewers. I don't know why. Like, I don't understand that part of it, but it's an important part of the game. And it just felt like I always wound up with the actors because I would not check out until the last possible moment. And that was one of those things that was a real boon to me, because I always had people to attach to shows.
And I didn't have that. And also, because I started first, I started with less money. Yes. So I was always working from a deficit, and it was a little bit more difficult. I don't know if that was a problem for you. Certainly wasn't a problem for TJ when,
No, but but also you got to consider like what you do. Like, there's a lot of strategy, and it's a great game. I love the mechanic. I really want to play it with more people, because a lot of the times I have been playing it with 3 people because that's sort of what we're able to get together. But then when I play a game that I played with 3 people with, 5 or more, it changes how the game is played, because it is a completely different game when you have other people who are coming in to interrupt it. So the network is a game I definitely want to play again. I want to see if I can have more fun with it and not just be the soulless guy chomping on his cigar in the background. Because let's face it, that's what I became. I didn't care anything. I was canceling shows and attaching actors just to like get those viewer numbers right then and there.
Yeah, you were more Fox executive than Sidney Newman.
Nice.
You're
Very
welcome.
nice. You looked up his name.
Oh, I knew his name. I don't have to look it up.
Why didn't you say it earlier? You son of a bitch. You bested me in real life networks.
Anyway, all right, so final question, and I pretty much know the answer to this. Would you recommend the game, Devin?
No, not at all. I think it's no. Yes,
Oh, wow.
obviously, I recommend the networks 100%. It's a fun game. It's fun to play. It's really easy to pick up too. Like after the first round, I was a little nervous. Like I'm like, oh, what is going to happen? Because the first round is sort of a truncated version of the game, and then once that second one starts, you flip over another panel, and things start to get real. But once you play one round of it, you understand how the game works. It's quick to learn, and it'll take a lifetime to master.
Yeah.
Which is Othello's slogan, I think. Please don't sue me, makers of Othello.
I mean, I would recommend it. I had a lot of fun with it. It's definitely more strategy Euro-y than I was expecting. But at the same time, the parodies they're silly, but they're funny. And you definitely got a lot of recognizable shows in there. And then the junk shows that you start with those are hysterical. Because it was just really just dumb stuff. But it was really funny to me.
But I stand by putting on Is My Cat Psychic at 8 p.m. because people would watch that show.
I don't understand why I didn't get a lot of viewers.
I get no viewers. It's because I'm up in the 60s. People don't watch that. We want the 5s, the 6s, the 7s, the 8, the 9, the 10, the 11, and the 12.
But people would have watched your show if they weren't watching The Wide World of Forks. So
every time he brings up The Wide World of Forks, ladies and gentlemen, I die a little inside.
It was a fun game, though. It definitely had some laugh out loud moments.
It's just like now it's years later. Zach and I both ran our successful television networks. I did some underhanded things in order to cripple his network's ability to succeed. And now it's like, 5 years later, we ran into each other at a coffee shop and we're just reminiscing on that time in our lives. And I would like to apologize for my actions when we were both TV executives, Zachary.
And I apologize for putting Visine in your coffee when you weren't looking.
That certainly explains some things, but it is where I got the idea for Paisley is the New Burnt Umber. And the fact that I could get the adorkable girl to play the lead. I mean, that tied the whole network together for me.
All right. I think we're going to wrap it up there, folks. That wraps up this episode of Board with Friends. If you have questions to ask, grievances to make, or comments to deliver, feel free to email us at boardwithfriends42@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at boardwithfriend. Like us on Facebook, or check out our website, boardwithfriends.blogspot.com. If you enjoyed this show, check out some other podcasts like The Say Report, the Local Multiplayer Podcast, or the Fanholes Podcast. Until next time, thanks for listening. Is that the review music?
I didn't know. I felt inspired. I mean, that's the review music for my network. I don't even remember what my network was. You were Moo TV. So,
that's the only one I remember. Yeah.
I was channel 62. That's what I recall.
All right.
Yes. Let's talk about the networks. Let's do a rule breakdown.